Hi, hello, good evening, thanks for your time, and within the next 30 minutes I implore you to get diplomatic with us here on Diplomatic Call as we spend time with, yes, the Egyptian ambassador here in Ghana. He is His Excellency Omar, Selim, and tonight he will be telling us about the current state of Egypt. We will talk about Egypt-Ghana diplomatic relations. We will assess the impact of the Egyptian revolution on its diplomatic relations. He also tell us about his time here in Ghana, whether he enjoys working here, and what he would really miss when his time is up for him to go back to Egypt. But that would be after we take our very first break. We'll come back and do more talk. So welcome back, and on the show tonight, like I said before the break, His Excellency Omar Selim decided to join us on the show tonight. So thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And thanks for inviting us into your office.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Great place.
You're almost welcome.
Let's start by talking about Egypt. I mean, yes, the recent, some would say it's a crisis, some would want to describe it as a revolution. How would you describe it, and what reasons would you account or, yes, give for describing it as such?
Well, it is definitely a revolution. We have no doubt about it. You and the whole world witnessed 30 million Egyptians and over 30 million Egyptians on the streets on the 30th of June. These 30 million Egyptians were unhappy for the situation in the country, the economic situation, the social situation, the political situation. Everything was going completely wrong, and fortunately there was one big message from everyone in Egypt that we are not accepting the status quo. We cannot continue to the future without building the new modern state that we all aspire to on the 25th of January 2011, which was the start of the first Egyptian revolution. So people came back on the street because they wanted a modern state. They wanted a state which everyone was equal, which had the respect of the dignity and the human rights of everyone. And fortunately enough, the Egyptian people took back again their country into hands. And we are having now a new roadmap that is currently being, executed and going well on track. We are drafting now and amending the last constitution. All the discrepancies that it had, the loopholes in that constitution are now currently reviewed, and we will put back on. Will be put on referendum for the people
to decide on.
Yes.
And what would you have to say about the casualties? I mean, that has been involved in this revolution. I mean, also look at its impact on the economic development, the social development of the country. So would you say the revolution has been successful, or was indeed needed?
Definitely. Let me tell you, during the past few months, we saw, of course, a very unfortunate loss of life that could have been very much avoided. But unfortunately, the Muslim Brotherhood, either it was their way and they being ruling the country and taking control of every single office in the important office inside the country, or not, or the chaos. So they were trying to impose the chaos in the streets, resisting violently, setting up blockades in the streets, and the violence came from that specific action. It was not from the revolution itself of the people.
I see.
Yeah.
And would you say the media, both local and international, has been fair in its reportage? Because some people would argue that the media didn't handle the reportage of the revolution in a fair manner.
Yeah, actually, we feel quite sometimes unhappy about it, especially that the media coverage at the beginning of the revolution was quite, let's say, quite balanced. But after that, we saw some media corporations covering some areas with another perspective, with incitement, not showing really what was going on the streets in Egypt. The people were there on the street. They wanted to show their will. They wanted to show their support for this change, and they wanted to show the world that what happened in the 30th of June is just the continuation of the first wave of the Egyptian revolution. So we had the first wave on the 25th of January, and you have the second wave on the 30th of June. And unfortunately, some media didn't portray that exactly the way it is.
Now, let's look back to just before the revolution. How would you describe, or how would you have described the economic situation in Egypt, the economic and political situation in Egypt before the revolution? And would you say the revolution was really needed?
Definitely. From 2011 till 2013, till the second wave of the revolution, Egypt, which is a very strong economic country in Africa, borrowed $10 billion in just one year. The cash reserves of Egypt declined from 33 to 34 billion dollars to as low as 9 or 7 billion dollars. And this was very unfortunate that a country like Egypt, which had an economy that was so strong that even during the economic crisis 2009 and 2010, we passed it very well, and we were not very much affected by the world economic crisis at the time. And due to very poor management of the economy, of the negative social atmosphere, also the political situation that was very also negative. All that affected very much the confidence in the Egyptian economy, and we didn't have any direct investment during the last year, considering from June 2012, June 2013, not one single dollar came as direct investment.
So you, in a sense, you think that revolution was really needed?
Of course.
So would you have joined in the revolution if you were in Egypt then?
Yes, definitely.
I see. Now, how did it impact on your diplomatic relations with other states? Did it exert any negative impact?
No, we had a mission after the revolution, is to explain to the world what really happened, to explain to the world that this was the will of the people, to explain the world what is the roadmap about. The roadmap we're having right now is extending through from 9 months to a year, and we are achieving, steps that are included in that roadmap, which is one of the most important, is to start to have a new and proper constitution. We want a constitution that gives equal rights between men and women, that gives equal rights to all Egyptians, regardless of their faith, their religious background.
That was non-existent in your previous constitution?
No, there was no equal rights between men and women. There was no equal rights between Muslim and non-Muslims.
I see.
So that was also a very important component to have it in the constitution, to show that we are all Egyptians and we are all equal.
And if you just join us, this is Diplomatic Call, and we're spending time with His Excellency Omar Selim. He is the Egyptian ambassador here in Ghana, and he's been telling us about the Egyptian revolution and its impact. And yes, he says it was really needed. But let me take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about Egypt-Ghana diplomatic relations.
Secret of how to be your perfect family has been uncovered. Come to the Chiropractic Wellness Center and join the perfect family today. CWC, Creating Wellness.
So we continue to remain strictly diplomatic here on Diplomatic Call, and His Excellency Omar Selim, the Ambassador of Egypt in Ghana, is still with us. And sir, now let's talk about Egypt-Ghana diplomatic relations. I mean, we all know our very first president was married to an Egyptian, but what would you say are the core historical antecedents of our diplomatic relations?
Well, it is not diplomatic relation only, it's a very, very strong historic relation between two people, the people of Egypt and the people of Ghana. We are very strongly binded. Of course, the late President Kwame Nkrumah was married to an Egyptian, but also I want to recall the very strong and personal relations between late President Nkrumah and late President Gamal Abdel Nasser. Well, they were one of the founding fathers of the African Union, which was at the time the organization OAU. And we as Egyptians and Ghanaians, we share the same values. We have the same goals. We are looking for a strong Africa. We are looking to a big leap forward for us as Africans in this continent. So I think Egypt and Ghana can play a major role because we are very strongly related together. And there is also a lot of understanding in our positions, either in the international forums or on African issues. So Egypt and Ghana can play a major role together to push on the agenda in Africa.
Now, what would you say have been high points with regards to the relationship between Ghana and Egypt?
Well, I can say that the relations have been always on high. We never witnessed any drops in our relations together. I also want to recall something when I presented my credentials here in 2010. It was His Excellency the late President Atta Mills, and he welcomed me at the time as member of the Ghanaian family. He told me, I'm not welcoming you only as an ambassador, but you are most welcome as one of the member of the family, because we have a family relation. And I was really very much and very touched about this.
And aside the strong bond between the two countries, I mean, have these two countries done enough in seeing to the economic, the political, the social, the cultural growth of their respective countries?
We have very strong economic relations, but from my position here and from my experience in Ghana, there is never enough between Egypt and Ghana. I think the sky is just the limit. We have a very strong presence here in joint investments in Ghana, in the electrical field, in the telecommunication field. We have our national carrier that comes here 7 flights a week. So we are very strongly related. We have also Egyptian construction companies working in Ghana here since a long time. They're here in Ghana since some of them go back to 30, 40 years ago.
And how big is the Egyptian community here in Ghana?
We are around between 250 to 300 Egyptians here in Ghana. Very well established. Some Egyptians are been here so 30, 40 years.
And do you have an idea the number of Ghanaians probably also residing in Egypt?
We have a quite large community. I don't know how much, but I think they're also equal to the Egyptian community here in Ghana. There is also a lot of footballers.
Exactly.